So now we come to the second book, which is the chapter of the fours, all the four things. The first sutta is 4.1.3. The Buddha said, "Monks, possessed of four qualities, the foolish, sinful, inauthentic man carries about with him an uprooted, lifeless self, is blameworthy, is censured by the intelligent, and begets much demerit. What for? Without investigation or scrutiny, he speaks in praise of what deserves not praise. Likewise, he speaks in dispraise of that deserving praise. Without investigation or scrutiny, he shows appreciation where there should be none. Likewise, when appreciation should be shown, he shows displeasure. These are the four qualities. But monks, possessed of four qualities, the wise, virtuous, authentic man carries about with him a self not uprooted, not lifeless, is not blameworthy, is not censured by the intelligent, and begets much demerit, and begets much merit. What for? After investigation or scrutiny, he speaks in praise of that deserving praise. Likewise, he speaks in dispraise of that deserving dispraise. After investigation or scrutiny, he shows appreciation for that deserving appreciation. Likewise, he shows displeasure for that deserving displeasure. These are the four. So here the Buddha is saying that when we praise or we speak ill of anybody or anything, we should be careful. We should investigate and scrutinize before we make some comment like that, especially if it's about certain people, especially if they are virtuous, and we speak ill, and that would create a lot of demerit for us. That's why we have to be very careful. The Buddha said in one of the suttas that whenever we are about to do anything with intention, before, that means creating karma, before we do it, we must be careful and ask ourselves whether that action is going to lead to the harm of ourselves or to others. If it is going to lead to the harm of the self or others, we should not do it. If it is going to lead to the benefit of the self or others, then we can do it. So we have to consider before we act. And then during our action itself, again, we should consider. And even after our actions, again, we should consider, reflect on whatever actions we have done, whether it created any harm, any suffering to anybody else or to ourselves, or whether it benefited. So we have to be careful of our actions. 4.1.4. The Buddha said, "Monks, by wrong conduct towards four persons, the foolish, sinful, inauthentic man carries about with him an uprooted, lifeless self, is blameworthy, is censured by the intelligent, and begets much demerit. Who are the four? Monks, it is by wrong conduct towards mother, father, a Tathagata, and a Tathagata's disciples that the foolish, sinful, inauthentic man begets much demerit. But monks, by right conduct towards these same four persons, the wise, virtuous, authentic man carries about with him a self not uprooted, not lifeless. He is not blameworthy. He begets much merit." Sutta refers to four persons. Sometimes they are called the four fields of merit and also the four fields of demerit. That is our parents, and then the Buddha himself, and then the Buddha's disciples. That means monks and nuns. You see, the Buddha is already not in the world, so we can forget about our conduct towards the Buddha. But our parents, especially, for a lot of people, sometimes if we neglect our parents, or we are unfilial, we don't do our duty towards our parents, and after they pass away, then we feel a lot of remorse. It gives us a lot of pain. So if we provide for our parents and look after them well, and after they pass away, it will bring us a lot of joy. So towards the Buddha's disciples, monks and nuns, also we have to be careful, especially if we intend to speak anything ill about monks or nuns. We have to consider very carefully. And so these are the 4 fields of merit and the 4 fields of demerit also. Now the next sutta is 4.1.7. The Buddha said, monks, these 4 who are accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, deeply learned, Dhamma bearers, who live according to Dhamma, these 4 illuminate the order, Sangha. Which 4? A monk who is accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, deeply learned, Dhamma bearer, who lives according to Dhamma, illuminates the order, or Sangha. A nun who is accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, etc., illuminates the order. So also a male lay disciple who is accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, deeply learned, etc. And the 4th one is a female lay disciple who is accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, deeply learned, etc. These are the 4 who, being accomplished in wisdom, disciplined, confident, deeply learned, Dhamma bearers, living in accordance with Dhamma, illuminate the order. This is one sutta where we find that the Sangha refers not only to monks and nuns, but also to male lay disciples and female lay disciples. This sometimes is called the Fourfold Assembly. So for example, when we take refuge in the Sangha, sometimes, as you have listened earlier, sometimes when we take refuge with the Sangha, we find that it refers to the Bhikkhu Sangha, as you have heard some of the earlier suttas, where the lay people in the presence of the Buddha, they say they take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Bhikkhu Sangha. And sometimes the Sangha refers to this Fourfold Assembly, and is also explained as the 8 Aryas, 8 types of Aryas. Next sutta is 4.2.13. The Buddha said, monks, there are these 4 right efforts. What 4? Herein a monk generates desire for the non-arising of evil, unprofitable states that have not yet arisen. He makes an effort, sets going energy. He lays hold of and exerts his mind to this end. He generates desire for the abandoning of evil, unprofitable states that have arisen. He makes an effort, sets going energy, etc. And then the 3rd one, he generates desire for the arising of profitable states not yet arisen. He makes an effort, sets going energy, etc. And the 4th one, he generates desire for the persisting, for the non-confusion, for the cultivation, for the increase, development and augmentation of profitable states that have arisen. He makes an effort, sets going energy, lays hold of and exerts his mind to this end. These monks are the 4 right efforts. And this sutta is talking about samappadana, the 4 right efforts, which is one of the factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path. And the first one is to not to allow evil, unprofitable states that have not yet arisen to arise. This unprofitable, the word is a translation of akusala. Akusala is unprofitable or unskillful. States is Dhamma. Sometimes you can say thoughts also. Anything that comes up in the mind that is unprofitable, evil, unskillful, that leads to suffering, leads to remorse. If they have not arisen, we should not allow it to arise. Then the second one, if it is already arisen, evil, unprofitable states that have already arisen, then we should abandon it. That's why we have to always observe our mind. And the third one is, if profitable states have not arisen in our mind, then we generate these profitable states in our mind. Like for example, energy, diligence, earnestness, the desire to practice the spiritual teachings. And the fourth one, if the profitable states have already arisen, then we should develop it and augment it and cultivate it so that it develops even further. These are the 4 right efforts, Samapadana. Then the next sutta has a little to do with it, is 4.2.14. Monks, there are these 4 efforts. What for? The effort to restrain, the effort to abandon, the effort to generate, and the effort to nurture. And of what sort, monks, is the effort to restrain? Herein a monk, seeing an object with the eye, does not grasp at its general features or its details, inasmuch as coveting and dejection, evil, unprofitable states, might flow in upon one who dwells with his eye faculty unrestrained. He applies himself to such restraint, sets a guard over the eye faculty, wins the restraint thereof. Hearing a sound with the ear, or smelling an odor with the nose, or tasting a flavor with the tongue, or with body contacting tangibles, or with mind cognizing mental states, he does not grasp at the general features or at the details. Inasmuch as coveting and dejection, evil states might flow in upon one who dwells with his faculties unrestrained, he applies himself to such restraint, wins restraint thereof. This, monks, is called the effort to restrain. I'll just stop here for a moment to explain. This passage is about a practice in certain places called Indriya Samvara, sense restraint. Certain places is also called Indriyesu Gutta Dwara, guarding the doors of the senses. Because if we practice the spiritual path, and especially if we are interested in meditation, we should not be concerned so much with the external world. The Buddha said always that we should dwell on our mind and on our body, the nature of our body, and on our mind. And the 4 stations of Satipatthana also basically is the body and mind. If we allow our attention to go out to the objects of seeing, or objects of the eye, or objects of sight, and objects of hearing, that means sounds, or smells, or taste, touch and thoughts. The Buddha said these are Mara's playground, Satan's playground. If we go out into these 6 sense doors, we are likely to be caught by Mara, the Buddha said. Because if you see anything, and if you're attracted by it, and then feelings arise and perception, etc., and then you think about it, and then the chances of evil, unprofitable states arising are great. That's why we, if we are interested in meditation, we try not to be. This passage says does not grasp. The word gahi or gaha, it can mean grasp or seize or hold on to. It can also mean take up or accept. So in other words, we don't see the general features and the nimitta or the details of it. And I go a bit faster, and then the Buddha says, and of what sort, monks, is the effort to abandon? Herein a monk does not admit sensual thought that has arisen, but abandons it, expels it, makes an end of it, drives it out of renewed existence. So also with regard to malign and cruel thought that has arisen, he does not admit evil, unprofitable states that arise from time to time. He drives them out of renewed existence. This, monks, is called the effort to abandon. And of what sort is the effort to generate or create? Herein a monk generates the factor of enlightenment, that is mindfulness or recollection, sati, that is based on seclusion, on dispassion, on cessation, that ends in self-surrender. He generates the factor of enlightenment, that is investigation of Dhamma, the factor of enlightenment, that is energy. He generates the factor of enlightenment, that is delight, piti, there is tranquility, that is concentration, that is equanimity, based on seclusion, on dispassion, on cessation, that ends in self-surrender. This, monks, is called the effort to generate or create. And of what sort, monks, is the effort to nurture or develop? Herein a monk nurtures the favorable concentration sign, the perception of the skeleton, the perception of the worm-eaten corpse, of the discolored corpse, of the fissured corpse, the perception of the inflated corpse. This is called the effort to nurture. These then, monks, are the 4 efforts. So here these 4 efforts, the first one, the effort to restrain, it also has got to do with the earlier sutta, restraining of non-arising of evil, unprofitable states. The second one, the effort to abandon, has also got to do with abandoning evil states that have arisen. And the third one, the effort to generate or create, that means profitable states. He allows them, if they have not come up, we generate them, create them. And the fourth one, mature or develop profitable states that have already arisen. We develop them further. That means the sign of the meditation, sign of concentration, the perception of the skeleton, of the corpse, etc. So these two suttas are related. The book of the Fours, or the chapter of the Fours, and the Buddha said, monks, there are these four chief types of beings. What four? Chief of those who have personality is Rahu, lord of the Asuras. Chief of those who are given to the pleasures of sense is Mandatta, the Raja. Chief of those who have lordship is Mara, the wicked one. In the world of Devas, Maras and Brahmas, together with recluses and Brahmins, Devas and mankind, a Tathagata is reckoned chief, and Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one. These monks are the four chief types of beings. This sutta, the first person that the Buddha mentioned is Rahu. Rahu is the one of the chieftains among the Asuras. Asuras are Devas, heavenly beings. And Rahu is supposed to be very huge, extremely huge. Sometimes you can see certain drawings of Rahu swallowing the moon, or trying to swallow the moon. So that is Rahu. And then the second one is Mandatta, the Raja. But this is the only place where we find the mention of this name. So we don't know much about this person. And the third one is Mara. Mara, to a lot of people, is Satan. Satan. And Mara is a person who has quite a lot of power. And he wields a lot of power over the minds of beings, especially those that are lower than his realm. Mara is supposed to live in the sixth heaven above the human realm. Every world system, you have three realms. The lowest is the desire realm, where you have beings differentiated into male and female. And in the desire realm, lust, sensual desire, controls all beings. And in the desire realm, the highest heaven is Satan. He stays in the highest heaven, but he's not the chief there. There are other chieftains. He's one of the chieftains there. And then the second realm in every world system is the form realm, where beings have heavenly beings with very fine form. In fact, because they have such good control over their minds, they are supposed to have meditated and attained concentration, strong concentration. Then only they can be reborn there. That means they have attained the Jaanas, what we call the Jaanas. They have attained one-pointedness of mind. So those beings in the form realm, they give off a lot of light. And because the mind is so strong, they can change themselves into a form with the body. So like, for example, Mahabrahma, sometimes he goes to visit Sakadeva Raja, the second heaven above us. And when he comes, they can see him like a ball of light coming from a distance very fast. And then they stand up in respect. And then when he arrives there, he changes into a form of like them, with a human form, Normally appears like a young boy, and then he'll speak to them. Then the third realm is the formless realm, where the beings are supposed to be formless. Or sometimes it's interpreted is that their form is so fine that they're almost like formless. And Mara is supposed to be so powerful that there is a sutta where the Buddha went to visit the Brahmas. Brahmas are high beings, very high heavenly beings, and the Buddha is trying to teach them. But Mara was trying to control the minds of some of them so that they would not listen to the Buddha. That's how powerful Mara is. And the fourth one is the Buddha and Arahant. It's said here that of all the beings, the Buddha is reckoned the chief of all beings because he has gone beyond all beings. Later we'll look at other suttas and understand that. And the next sutta is 4.3.22. On a certain occasion, monks, I myself was staying at Uruvela on the bank of the river Naranjara under the goat herd's banyan, just after I had become perfectly enlightened. Then monks, a great number of Brahmins, broken down, old men, aged, far gone in years, who had reached life's end, came to visit me where I was. On reaching me, they greeted me courteously, and after the exchange of greetings and courtesies, sat down at one side. As they thus sat, monks, those Brahmins said this to me: "We have heard it said, Master Gotama, that Gotama the recluse pays no respect to, does not rise up in the presence of, does not offer a seat to Brahmins who are broken down old men, aged, far gone in years, who have reached life's end. Inasmuch, Master Gotama, as the worthy Gotama does none of these things, it is not the proper thing to do, Master Gotama." Then monks, I thought to myself, in truth, these reverend ones understand not either the elder or the things which make an elder. Though a man be old, monks, 80 or 90 or 100 years of age, yet if he be one who speaks out of due season, who speaks things untrue and unprofitable, things contrary to Dhamma, doctrine, and contrary to Vinaya, discipline, if he be one who utters words unworthy to be treasured in the heart, words unseasonable and devoid of reason, words undiscriminating and not concerned with welfare, then that one is reckoned just a foolish elder. Though a man be young, monks, a youth, a mere lad, black-haired and blessed with his lucky prime, one in the first flush of life, if he be one who speaks in due season, who speaks things true and profitable, things according to Dhamma and Vinaya, if he be one who utters words worthy to be treasured in the heart, words seasonable, reasonable, discriminating and concerned with welfare, then that one is reckoned a wise elder. Now monks, there are these four things which make the elder. What for? Herein a monk is virtuous, perfect in the Patimokkha precepts, restrained with the restraint of the Patimokkha, perfect in the practice of right behavior, seeing danger in the slightest faults. He undertakes and trains himself in the training of the precepts. He is learned, is replete with learning, is a hoard of learning. Those doctrines which, lovely at the beginning, lovely in the middle, lovely at the end, both in the meaning and the letter of them, which preach the utterly fulfilled, the perfectly purified way of the holy life. Such doctrines are much heard by him, borne in mind, repeated aloud, pondered over, and well penetrated by his vision. The four stages of jhana, sometimes translated as mental absorption, I prefer like states of mental incandescence. The four stages of jhana, which are of the clear mind, which are concerned with the happy life in this very world, these he wins easily, without effort. By the destruction of the asavas in this very life, thoroughly understanding the release by mind, the release by wisdom, he realizes it, attains it, and dwells therein. These monks are the four things which make the elder. In this sutta, we find the Buddha is trying to define what is an elder. What is an elder? Elder is one who is worthy of respect, is considered worthy of respect. And so the Buddha said it's not because a man is old that he is worthy of respect. If he speaks words which are not profitable, which are not valuable, which are untrue, etc., then he's just a foolish old man. But The Buddha said, 4 things make an elder, 4 things make a monk worthy of respect. The first one is virtue, that monk is virtuous, that's the first one. And the second one, he has much learning, it's very much learning, that means learning of the Dhamma, the teachings. And the third one, he has attained the 4 Jaanas, the 4 stages of concentration. And the last one, he has destroyed the asavas, that means he has gone out of the cycle of rebirth, he has become an arahant. So these are the 4 things. The first one, you find sila is always very important. Sila is moral conduct. And it is the foundation of the holy life, of the spiritual path of a virtuous man. Moral conduct. Without moral conduct, you can't progress. There are some foolish people who think they want to practice only wisdom, and they think all the other things like keeping the precepts, doing charity, learning the Dhamma are not important. But you cannot make any progress without all these supporting conditions. For example, the Mangala Sutta is a very good sutta where it mentions all the different ways of attaining blessings. Sila is one of them, Dana is another, much learning, Bahusacha is another, visiting monks who know the Dhamma to discuss the Dhamma, and studying the Dhamma and discussion of Dhamma, etc. All these are foundations of the spiritual path which aid us to progress. And you see, the second factor mentioned here is much learning. Much learning. The Buddha's disciples are called savakas. Savakas means hearers or listeners, and they listen to the Dhamma, all of them. That's why listening to the Dhamma is extremely important. There's a lot of people, they try to practice the holy life without this important foundation, and they may practice for 20, 30 years, but they don't make much progress, and people see that it's obvious to other people, but it's not obvious to them. They have a big temper, very egoistic, etc. So, much learning of the Dhamma is very important. That's why you find the Buddha's disciples were enlightened. Some of them are much faster than the Buddha. They came and listened to the Dhamma and was taught by the Buddha. In a very short while, they were enlightened compared to the Buddha, who took 6 years of hard work to become enlightened. And the fourth one is the 4 Jaanas. The 4 Jaanas, if a person attains the Jaanas, he's worthy of respect. That's why the Buddha said in some other sutta that if a monk can attain the Jhana even for a short while, then the food that he eats, which are given by other people, he eats, he's worthy of the food that he takes, etc. And also he follows the Buddha's advice. He listens to the Buddha's advice. The last one, of course, is the highest criterion. He has destroyed the asavas. He has no more ego. He has destroyed the ego completely. That is a person who sees all beings as he's one with all beings, and he can never harm other beings. So those are the qualities which make a person an elder worthy of respect. And next sutta is 4.3.24. On a certain occasion, the Exalted One was staying at Saketa in Kalaka's park. Then the Exalted One addressed the monks, saying, "Monks." "Yes, Lord," replied those monks to the Exalted One. The Exalted One said, "Monks, whatsoever in the world with its devas, etc., etc., with its hosts of recluses and Brahmins, of devas and mankind, whatsoever is seen, heard, sensed, cognized, attained, searched into, pondered over by the mind, all that do I know. Whatsoever is seen, sensed, cognized, attained, searched into, pondered over by the mind, that have I fully comprehended. All that is understood by the Tathagata, but the Tathagata is not subject to it. If I were to say, I know whatsoever in the world is seen, heard, and so forth, it would be a falsehood in me. If I were to say, I both know it and know it not, it would be a falsehood in me. If I were to say, I neither know it nor am ignorant of it, it would be a falsehood in me. That would be a fault in me. Thus monks, a Tathagata is a seer of what is to be seen, but he has no conceit of what is seen. He has no conceit of what has not been seen. He has no conceit of what is to be seen. He has no conceit about the seer. Hearing what is to be heard, he has no conceit of what has been heard, or not heard, or is to be heard. He has no conceit about the hearer. So also sensing what is to be sensed, cognizing the cognizable, he has no conceit of the thing cognized, or to be cognized, or of him who has cognition. Thus monks, the Tathagata being such a one in things seen, heard, sensed, cognized, is such. Moreover, than he who is such, there is none other greater or more excellent, I declare. This is the end of the sutta. This is one of the suttas which is a bit deep and it's not easily understood because the state of a Buddha, of an enlightened being, we cannot understand. But basically what the Buddha is trying to say is, even though he is a seer of what is to be seen, he has no conceit of what is seen. He has no conceit of what has not been seen. He has no conceit of what is to be seen. He has no conceit about the seer. So basically here, what he's trying to say is there is no self. Even though there is seeing, there is just the seeing. There is no I see. There is no that ego behind. So he has destroyed that ego. So he looks at everything a bit different from us. We still have got the asavas, the mental outflows. Whenever we see something through our senses, we cognize through our six senses. The moment our consciousness arises, immediately it's followed by feeling, whether it's a pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling or a neutral one. And after that there's perception. There's perception and an idea about that thing, like you hear a sound and then you perceive this fellow is these repulsive words, and then after that the mind starts working, you start thinking, and then anger arises, and then volition will follow. You decide what to do or what not to do, and then this will repeat the process. You keep on thinking about it, and this results in papancha. It's a proliferation of thoughts. One thought becomes 10, 10 becomes 100, etc. But with the Buddha, no thoughts arise. He has destroyed the asavas. Whatever is seen, he just sees it the way it is, very naturally, without eyes seeing, without any proliferation of thoughts. That's the state of an arahant. So it's quite difficult for us to understand. It's basically that whatever happens, there is no I, because the I arises with the thinking. That's why thinking is the support system of our ego. That's why in meditation we try to stop all the thinking. And you can't stop the thinking until you have stilled your mind, made your mind so still that all the thoughts have stopped. Then you are used to that state. Slowly the mind inclines towards that state. And then otherwise we are used to thinking. We always live in the world of the six senses. It's very hard to withdraw from the world of the six senses.